Hey friends, in this video I want to share a few pros and cons to taking supplements and how to view it from a biohacking perspective. I also want to share a few strategies on how I actually assess supplements, what I look for, but also a few that I'm taking. So let's dive right in. First off, we have to identify what the word supplement is. Well, the word supplement is exactly what it says, supplemental, meaning in addition to what you're either currently doing or not doing. So that's the actual key here, is understanding the result that you're looking for. Let's just get an example. They said someone's trying to lose weight. They think, well, if I need to lose weight, I need to go take a supplement to help speed this up. They can be correct, and that is true, but understanding there's a lot more to that. So that's what we're going to cover here. But when we look at that, we have to also assess maybe sometimes some people are not getting enough nutrients or they're not eating enough, which is why they're gaining weight. That can be mind-blowing, but that's really the reality, is how the body works. So that's where we have to be a little bit more thinkers, ask the questions, and be biohackers when it comes to getting the best out of what we're doing. So let's jump in. The first part we want to look at is quality. Now, quality is huge for everything. If you ever get stuck on anything and you're trying to figure out exactly what food to eat, what supplements to take, always ask the question, quality, meaning the source that it came from. You can always get away with a lot more by eating quality foods versus eating a less amount or a shorter amount of a period of time of certain foods that are not of quality. Because what's going to happen is if you get a bunch of poor quality foods, you're going to get a bunch of toxins loaded into the body, and that's going to offset either the hormones or just in general how the body functions when we look at it at more of a physiological level as far as what's happening to the cells and the organs. So that's where we always have to ask the question, the quality. So that becomes down to the brand name, not just off of influencers, meaning your professional athlete or your person of interest that you see taking a certain supplement because they look cool doing it. Because the reality is, even if they look cool doing it, doesn't mean it's cool in your body and how you're going to look. So it's a lot of paid marketing out there, so that's where it gets a little bit tricky. But at the end of the day, you really have to do your own research and also assess, the people that are taking them, how do they look? Is it affecting them in a positive manner, or are they not getting the result, but they just actually are, again, an influencer or a person of marketing that's good at using words or colors to be strategic to get you to take the supplement. So that's the biggest thing right there, is defining who you're getting your supplements from, the brand, the resources they get it from, meaning where do they get it from, because when we look at ingredients, we don't want to take supplements that are loaded with a lot of sugar, a lot of fillers, because now the marketing and the actual piece of it, whenever they make these supplements, that's where they get their most money, is they're putting a lot of fillers in there or a lot of cheaper ingredients, and that's where they make their money. You don't know it because either they don't have to label it on the supplement itself, or just in general, you don't know what the words say. And I always say is if you look at something and there's a ton of words and you have no clue what they mean, the tendency is it's probably not the best for you, because it's not collectively an amount of ingredients that you should be taking, because it's just a bunch of fillers added in there, versus sometimes if you have a little bit less, as far as, again, this depends on the product, your tendency is going to be a little bit more consistency on what's in it. So that's a little bit of a strategy, but I wouldn't always go off that. Again, I always kind of go off the brand, knowing their sourcing, where they get it from, because again, your goal is not to go in there and take a lot of supplements that are actually toxic to the body. That's going to add more to your problem. And that's what I see over and over, is a lot of people, they get in this phase where they're really trying to get a certain result, whether it's weight loss, whether it's energy. Anyways, it just becomes more of a health issue long term, and sometimes short term. For example, a lot of times I'll see some people, energy drinks, for example, take that energy drink to get that little extra rush, that norepinephrine, epinephrine. What they're doing is overstimulating their adrenals, meaning they're burning out their adrenals just to get that effect. So that leads to palpitations, increased heart rate. So I always say, we want to consider like what the supplement you're doing. If you're affecting the organs, are you causing more of a health issue long term that either, within months, years, decades, now all of a sudden, yeah, you may look good for 5 or 10 years, but all of a sudden you're dealing with this health issue you need a medication for. So that's why I say quality is so important. You really, really want to dive in and hone in on that, because that's the biggest piece. Again, you can relate that to everything else as far as food, life, people. Quality is number one. So second is going to be timing. Now this is huge, because a lot of people, especially, let's just go back to weight loss, taking the supplements is specific on timing. There's certain ingredients that kick us out of a fast. So for example, proteins, when we look at the breakdown of proteins, the amino acids, or just in general sugar, carbs. If you're one of those persons that you're taking supplements to lose weight, but you're putting a lot of carbs, protein, amino acids early in the morning, maybe you're kicking yourself out of that fast. So that was just a strategy right there, that you could have been doing the intermittent fasting that was going in there burning maybe some of the fat, or even and detoxing the body, getting some of those what they call like chemicals, toxins out of the body that are actually slowing your system down. So there is that game we want to play of understanding the systems when it comes to our cardiovascular system, the nervous system, musculoskeletal system, and look at that from a perspective of saying, hey, if you're going to go in there to lose weight, you want to get the effect. You're not going to go in there and take supplements just to gain weight. And so that's what ends up happening. We see, a mixture of that quality versus the timing, where a lot of people go in there and start taking all these supplements early in the morning. What they're doing is kicking themselves out of that fast, but they're also adding extra toxins, and before you know it, you have increased inflammation. They're not getting any results, or it's minimal results, and it's also short-lived. So that's a big part of it, is the timing. And understanding too, on an empty stomach is usually better, because again, when you take something, depending on the form it's in, all of a sudden the absorption rate is huge as far as your bioavailability of how accessible it is to get into the area of the body, the cell. So we want to think a little bit deeper, other than just looking at our exterior. As far as, let's say someone's wanting to lose weight, you got the fat on the exterior, so outside superficially, then you have fat around your organs, but then fat in the organs. So like, for example, the brain is the fattest organ in the body. So we want to think about and consider too, is where on this timing am I taking other foods in that may be, for example, pushing out acid into the stomach. So for example, anytime you eat usually a food, the stomach acid kind of goes in there to help break it down. So if I've already gone and either drank or ate a lot, and all of a sudden I'm taking that supplement, well, the tendency is there's already a lot of acid already pushed out into the stomach, that is maybe counteracting some of the effects of what you could be getting from it. So again, usually you want to take it on an empty stomach. Sometimes you don't, depending on what the supplement says, and that I'm not going to go into the biochemistry part of it. That's what the actual formulators are for. Typically go off what the instructions say, and or dive in deeper to understanding timing when it comes to it, because I'll see people miss out on this, and this is a huge key, is just the timing of the day. Again, our systems work off of a cyclical as far as a circadian rhythm. So sun up, sun down, and there's different parts to our body that are connected to the timing of the day, daylight. And so if you play that game, you're a lot more strategic and a biohacker when it comes to getting the results, because certain supplements are better to take early in the morning versus others are later in the day or at nighttime. And you're just playing that game. So for example, some people may take a detoxing supplement at nighttime, because that's when you're in that rest, digest, the parasympathetic, relaxing, the organs are going to work, cleansing, detoxing. You're in the intermittent fasting phase. So you're starting to learn how the body works, right? Well, at the same time, if I'm doing that timing phase, I don't want to go in there and take a cleanser or detoxer, maybe with some other supplements that I actually need. So for example, you also want to be cautious, and I always say ask your doctor if you're on medications, because there can be some interaction on this. They usually say take usually within an hour or 2 hours difference between supplements and meds, but that depends on your situation. Always ask your physician. But at the end of the day, when we think about that, we don't want to be doing detoxing supplement the same with something we need to actually absorb, right? Because then it goes in there and binds to it. So there's different binders like charcoal, different cleansers. So it's a game we're playing. But again, continue to always go back to that big question. When you get confused, you get stuck, just ask that question: what am I doing this for? What's the result I'm looking for? And hey, does this make sense? Just slow down and maybe write it out and go ask someone if you don't know. So that's always a key right there. So again, going back to the quality of the supplement, to the timing, and then the third, and we're going to dive right in, is purpose. What is the reason you're doing this? We always need to have a reason or result that we're looking for, whether it's weight loss, improved sleep, and increased energy. It could be all of it, and before you know it, you start to see all of it's connected. So that's what's cool about this as a biohacker. You start to see the connections really simple after a while. It can be a little bit muddy at first, especially if you're not into health and fitness, don't understand the body. But once you understand the body, it's a clear game plan on how to get it to do what you need it to do. But again, always know that supplements are supplements. They're not food. You don't want your supplements to replace food. And when we think about the result, the purpose that we're doing this for, sometimes we have to ask the question, why? Why am I doing this? Do I need to be on a supplement? Do I need to be on a medication? Why is this happening in the first place that I'm having this symptom, So I think that's kind of a deeper question, but you need to understand, like, a lot of times the supplements are there for a reason, meaning they're supplemental because they're helping us with our busy lifestyle. They're helping us overcome and get to maybe an area we need to be. Time in our life is seasoned a lot faster, but it's also shouldn't be long term, right? Just same thing with medications. There's a plan, there's a place and time for everything, but you also need a game plan to get off. Some supplements are actually good to be on long term, but understanding how it works with the body. Some supplements can be a little bit more what they call it, like cellular stress to the body, because there's a positive and negative. If you take something too much, I can drink too much water, right? If you have something too often, your body either gets maybe gets accustomed to it, gets used to it, and or it can have the opposite effect. So that's where we want to be, again, biohackers, be strategists, and assess. Things are seasonal, so there's going to be a time and place, and things are going to change over a period of time. So purpose is huge, and understanding, we want to know that we can't just rely on supplements to fix our lives, right? We always want to go under and ask that question of, hey, why is this organ not doing its job? Or why am I having a hard time sleeping? Because there can be some underlying other issues that honestly are the bigger domino that you can knock out, and then you're not sitting here taking supplement after supplement and trying to figure this whole thing out, or medication after medication over a period of time. So that's the game plan there. Quality, timing, and then purpose. You put it together. Let's dive right in. So again, these are just a few that I take off and on. And I'll be honest, I do it's always testing. So you're trying to see at your time in life, what you're trying to achieve, whether you're busy at work, or maybe you're traveling, or maybe you're trying to lose weight, or you're at the gym, you're trying to increase strength. So there's a lot of factors to take into this in consideration. So don't just take what I'm taking right now as your game plan to biohacking or health, whatever. I want to, I don't have enough time in this video to really go in depth on the pros and the cons of everything, because just as good as some supplements are, there can also be the flip side. A lot of people don't think about this, but plants in general have a lot of phytonutrients, meaning they're toxins, because they have their own defense mechanism for animals not to eat them, or or just in general, they have, each plant is different on the form it's in, as far as is it cooked versus if it's not. So when we think about supplements, all of a sudden we see this high condensed form. So you see people doing smoothies, or you have a high concentration of a certain ingredient. And so that can be good and bad depending on what you're using it for, because if all of a sudden you have all these phytonutrients, or these that are their own toxin in their own way, in our mind, in marketing, we're like, oh, this is good for us. Sometimes, it's not, because a lot of phytonutrients, or you take plants in general, have a lot of lectins, phytates. Basically, these rob you of minerals. They'll bind to your calcium. So now that's a lot in depth, a different video. But in concentration, saying if that's going to go in there and bind to that calcium, all of a sudden, hey, that's taking calcium. That's a mineral that helps with activation of heart muscle. So say you're a person on medications for heart, you have a heart issue, or maybe you have you're trying to get your nerves to contract. You're playing that game of that positive negative charge, and how all these minerals in the body affect it, or maybe even just in general bone health. Look at the joint of health. I'm doing physical therapy and performance training. A lot of people are in pain. I'm like, you know what? A lot of this is self-inflicted. They just don't know it, because the foods or supplements that they're taking, they think they're doing good, but all of a sudden they're just adding more to the problem because of how this affects internally in the body. So I understand there's a place and time for everything, but a lot of times marketing has you thinking that green is the only way to go, and reality is that's just not always how it works with the body. So there's a lot more emotional and religious stuff involved with that, with where people put their views and their beliefs. But at the end of the day, we kind of have to just bring it together and say, hey, does this make sense for my body, how it works? And if I want something to change, well, something's going to change, right? So let's jump in, and I may try to go a little bit more in depth on some of this, but again, just for time's sake, but also just to not go too far out there, and then this video be not intentional for the purpose of it, then we're going to be in a rabbit hole. So I will jump in on some other videos and get a little bit more in depth on that talk right there, as far as certain supplements and how they can be a little bit toxic to the body if we're not careful. So again, this is only a few, and these are kind of random right now, so I'll be honest, I'm trying to remember what exactly I just ordered, but I just got this in. I was like, well, you know what? Maybe this is a good time to show some people the variety, maybe how to look at it, some goods, some bads, how, it's not, again, to say you're living your life taking supplements, but maybe there's a variety of stuff that you can supplement here and there depending on your day. Because that's really what it comes down to, is what kind of day do you want to have? Do you want to be energetic? Do you know it's going to be a busy day? Or you have a high stress job? Or is it a lot of endurance, just busy work? Once you know that game, you start to realize the timing of stuff, the quality, and then the purpose of how to strategize when to take stuff, how to get the most of it, because that's what we're here for, right? Biohack and get the most out of our day in life. Anti-aging, feel good. So again, only a few here, and then I'll grab another one, but just to give you kind of a broad view. So for example, organic sulfur, a lot of people don't realize a lot of the sulfur, because of maybe certain things as farming goes, the minerals, sulfur in the soil, just because the way farming and or timing has gone, that they've just replanted things over. I grew up on a farm, so I don't want to go too I'm down a rabbit hole in this, but the over farming of certain lands, just in general, the source of amount of sulfur that's gotten into our foods, either due to pesticides, chemicals, glyphosates, different things have limited us. Lectins from the actual, there's different metabolic pathways in our body that let us have everything work together. And so what ends up happening is these limited amounts of sulfur coming in from the soil, getting into the foods, and or our body's blocking it as well. So there's different restrictions. I always say, just like about your body, if you have different restrictions at different joints, we don't move very well, right? So we want everything moving together. So if there's a restriction on the soil, meaning it's not allowing that sulfur to get into the plant that we're going to eat, the food. Or there's a restriction in your body, meaning you eat a lot of foods that are supposedly healthy, like maybe kale, you have a bunch of smoothies, green smoothies, or you're eating even sweet potatoes. That hit home for me the other day. I was like, I eat sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes. I eat so many of them. But I start to realize a lot of these are high in lectins. So they can block, meaning that block as far as the calcium, certain minerals. They rob you of certain minerals, but also they block or interact with these certain pathways, sulfur being one of them, sulfur pathway of sulfur getting into your body. This is a big deal for you if you have joint pain, inflammation, and or how the whole body as a system works together. So again, kind of a little bit deep, but you start to understand why. Ask that question: at what point of restriction is it in the how the food, the quality of it is it in the timing, is it in what's the purpose I'm taking this for? So if you're not getting good sulfur, and or you try to maybe go answer that question obviously from the start, maybe I could stop it from a different point of why eat less lectins, right, or phytates. Then sometimes we just can't. Timing, food, quality, where we live. I grew up on a farm, not great access to quality foods at the supermarkets there. So here, you get to be a strategist, right, a biohacker. So sulfur gets into that system, helps with eliminating some of that inflammation around your joints, but also helps with joint health. So again, as a strategist, as an active athlete, I need that good, healthy joint for the cartilage as I'm doing that wear and tear exercise, all the running, jumping, lifting, that kind of stuff. Moving on, I guess since we're kind of on the active state, I'll jump into one of my favorite, which is Energize. This is more on the energy part. So again, I don't want to sit there and be like, I've got to take energy drinks all day, but from a performance standpoint, it's got the amino acids, it's got your nutrients for activating your nervous system in a healthy way. You don't want to go in there and continue again. If we're constantly stimulating it, we're basically burning it out. We need something that's going to go in there and be a healthy and natural activation, give us those amino acids, but it's also got that ability to wake the brain up, because I want to be alert when I go work out, right? I don't want to be just kind of like, then you're more prone to injury. You just don't get a good workout, and it's like, why even there? Just telling your body, hey, if you're too tired, be honest, go sleep. Sleep's the most powerful recovery. A lot of times, you're going to get more out of your workout by recovering than you're actually working out. Again, that's a whole nother topic, but recovery is a powerful part when it comes to getting the result you're looking for. Let's dive right into metabolic. So this is looking at thyroid or blood sugar levels and energy. So there's a connection. Thyroid has a lot to do with our hormones, our ability to have the energy, but more on keeping things stabilized as far as especially blood sugar levels. Say you're type 1 diabetic, type 2. I know a lot of friends that are within the diabetes realm, whether it's type 1, type 2, it's helped stabilize. So they're not having to rely on the medications. Again, it's not saying you're going to go get off your meds doing this, but talk to your doctor, because they've had a lot of success. So you start looking a little bit more strategic when it's saying, hey, can I get away from this med? Can I now get into a healthier lifestyle? And then you keep going deeper. You keep going deeper, and you realize, wow, maybe it's a certain food I'm eating. And before you know it, you're like, all this was, this path that led you down to this craziness, but you're living a healthy lifestyle, you're active, and you're getting to do stuff you want to do. How cool is that, right? Multivitamin. So there is a lot in this. I don't have time to go over this one exactly, but multivitamins are huge if it's a good quality, right? And so there's a ton of ingredients in there, over 150. It's got your superfruit components. Also, it's got a mixture of pretty much everything you can need as far as your omega fatty acids. So there's a lot going on with this. Again, think about your body in general. Vitamins and minerals. Keep it simple. Macronutrients are your fats, carbs, sugars. Micronutrients, your vitamins, minerals. And then we start to break it down even further. We look at, what's the purpose of a lot of this stuff. When I think about this, I always kind of, you think about your macronutrients, your fats, carbs, proteins as your energy source, your building blocks of the body, right? Your framework. Then you think of your as far as your micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals, more as those that are kind of like, they're the activators. So you have your framework. Now we need someone to go in there, travel around, turn the signals on, and get things activated or deactivated. So that's the purpose of that. And so if you don't have that, again, no matter how good you look working out and doing your protein shakes or whatnot, or we're looking at your fats and your carbs, if you don't have a good activation of the system, how functional are you, right? We're all about function. You don't just want to look good, because again, we know timing is a factor in all this of how long longevity, health span. We can only look good for so long, meaning, at our peak. But in the day, it's like we want to look good and be functional our whole life. And that's the purpose of this. I got one more for you. So, yeah, again, timing on a lot of this stuff. You people that are trying to maybe lose weight or just in general need a good protein, So I'll think of sometimes I'll have a protein shake, and again, the purpose of this is not to just continually to take more shakes, that kind of thing. But there's a place and time, as I'm busy, I don't want something that's super heavy, and it's all about bioavailability. Everything you take is about how can it basically break down the body, or how readily available is it, especially if you're an athlete or you're doing a physical job, that we need something to break down, get into the body like we need it to, so we can speed stuff up, or just in general, it gives me that little bit of relief of that hunger, so I have that extra energy throughout the day, but with healthy ingredients. Again, because you can take a lot of protein shakes, but a lot of them are loaded with a lot of either sugars, a lot of, I would say, toxins as far as the formula they're made of, if that makes sense. And also, they're not pre-digested proteins. So your body's going to sit there and it's going to feel like a brick in your stomach. Like, oh, I don't feel good, feel gassy, feel bloated. So you really want a good quality protein when it comes to that, because, again, it's how it affects your performance and your brain, right? So I think there's a couple more here. Going back to the blood sugar levels, weight loss, again, someone needs something to really help speed up or improve the way their blood sugar levels, again. So if you're eating a bunch of carbs, or you're not quite there strict wise, you're not as strict on your diet, or just in general your health condition where you're at, you're playing that game of blood sugar levels. So if you eat a lot of carbs in the morning, that's bad, because, again, you got all these free floating sugars throughout the body, and if you don't burn it and you're not an active person, it either gets stored as fat, or, again, that inflammation gets added up, which is most people when they're trying to lose weight. It's mostly inflammation. The body's over 70% water, so you start to realize the majority of their first part of their weight loss is really just water. And but you got to get rid of it somewhere, and you start to look at, okay, what am I actually losing? Is it fat? Is it muscle? Is it the water? And then you start to get in there and you see, okay, I stabilize these blood sugar levels. Now I'm not as being harsh to the body. So again, there's a time and place for all this, but don't rely on it. Remember that you can't just keep relying on this stuff. It's like, keep going back and ask the question why. So I'll just kind of pick and choose certain things throughout the day. Now I've got a routine of, hey, here's how I'm feeling. Here's, I know what I ate before. Here's what I got to do. And you become creative. It's an art. And so one more here, and then we'll break it down. Actually, there's one more after this. Greens. So I was talking to you earlier about it's important to have certain greens because of what they can do from a certain standpoint of polyphenols, or maybe certain nutrients in the body, but they can also be what they call phytonutrients. So you get too many greens. Again, it's concentrated. It can rob you of certain minerals. So you got to play that game, because it's like, well, why am I taking this mineral and then I'm taking this other one? And then all of a sudden they're counteracting each other. So this is where it becomes a little bit deeper. Meaning you need some blood work. You've got to look at how your microbiome is as far as the functioning of your gut. Can you even handle it? Can you even absorb some of this stuff? But then you also want to think about, when it comes to it, your genetics. Sometimes you don't have the right genes to break certain things down. But then that's the purpose you may really need a supplement, is because no matter what you eat, or the form, it's about the form that you're taking it in. So again, it can get a little confusing, and it can be like a little bit overwhelming, but at the end of the day, you start to realize there's a place and time of when you're doing all this, going back to the quality, the timing, and the purpose. Remember that. So, the last one, because probably after watching this video, it's like, oh, it's overwhelming, right? And that's where biohacking is like, that's the game of it, trying to figure it out, is people deal with stress and anxiety. You gotta calm the nervous system down. So what I found, honestly, is if you get really good at doing things to calm the nervous system down, everything works better. You think clearer, you just feel better, you have better energy, you're not sitting there overtaxed, and that's sympathetic to that parasympathetic. Remember that I was telling you, the sympathetic is the fight or flight. I got another video specific on this, go check it out, versus your parasympathetic rest, relaxation. So sympathetic, majority of stuff we do throughout the day, whether it's stress can be good or bad, because stress gets us up and going. But it also can be, if we have too much, if we don't learn the game of how to play between that nervous system, all of a sudden we get too much. We get inflamed, and you have extra pain. You gain weight. You're aging quicker because your muscles get stiffer, because everything's just so activated. You're tense. Muscles are sensitive when you get pushed on. That massage doesn't feel, or is tense, or it tickles, because sometimes tightness can be painful or ticklish. I found that working on clients, but funny how that works. But it's all these signals your body's giving you, signs, symptoms, disease, unfortunately death. But if you can play that game and understand what's normal, a lot of people just chalk it off as aging. So again, we're trying to be strategic biohackers when it comes to getting the most out of our life, anti-aging when we want to think about feel good, look good, but being functional, longevity, health span. And this is where you're at. You're in your phase of your life. You're asking, what is the quality of the protein, food, whatever it is, supplement that you're taking? what is the timing? Am I doing it at the right time of the day? And what's my purpose? What's the reason for this? Is it improving my overall human function and performance?